Committee. I'm Mayor Walker from Draper and the chair of our committee. I'm going to get this started. We're going to start off with our roll call. Get an account of who's present. Go ahead.
Rosie Hernandez, WFRC.
Gordon Chandler, WFRC.
Stephanie Tomlin.
Lauren Victor, WFRC.
Nikki Navia, WFRC.
Byron Head, WFRC.
Brittany Ward, Sandy City.
Hugh Van Wagenen, WFRC.
Andrew Gruber, also WFRC. Is that me? Sorry.
Josh Sandra, UDOT.
Bartley Matthews, Davis County.
Jeff Euler, Davis County.
Megan Townsend, Community and Economic Development, Wasatch Front Regional Council.
Miranda Jones Cox, Government Affairs at WFRC.
And then it looks like we have quite a few folks online. Mayor Burton, why don't you start?
Hey, I'm Mayor Burton. I started.
Anyone else want to chime in that they're here? Or are we good? Jordan?
This is
Go
Mayor
ahead.
Braden Mitchell from Riverdale City.
This is Neil Critchlow from Grantsville City.
This is Richard Heyer from Ogden City.
This is Joy Petro from Layton City.
Mayor Dave Mon from Syracuse City.
Jory Jotter, Wasatch Front Long Range Planning Group Manager.
Michaela Jordan, WFRC. Chrissy Dahlberg, WFRC.
Hannah Carmody, Davis County.
Ted Knowlton, WFRC.
Kendall Willardson, Mountain Association of Governments.
And with Rich, Wasatch Front Regional Council.
Russ Fox with UTA.
Tim Harpst with Horrocks Engineers.
Blake Thomas with Harriman City.
Kevin Jepson, Perry City.
John Nichols with Parametrics.
Travis Evans with UDOT.
We get everybody? Is there anybody that hasn't said hello that's online? All right, thank you. First item up for a vote is an action item. It's minutes of the Active Transportation Committee meeting that was held February the 8th, 2023. I'd like a motion to approve those minutes if anyone's ready for that.
Motion to approve those minutes. Richard Heyer from Ogden.
I have a motion by Mr. Iyer from Ogden City. Is there a second?
Mayor Burton, second.
Thank you, Mayor Burton. So we have a motion to second. Any discussion? All right, seeing none, all in favor of approval of the minutes, say aye.
Aye.
I'll vote
Aye.
as well. Any opposed? All right, seeing none opposed, those minutes are approved unanimously. Number 2 is the chair report. I guess that's me, huh? Yeah, this is, I guess, an opportune time for such a thing. So we just got back last evening from a bunch of folks from around our Wasatch Front region and even south into Utah County with MAG. We went down to Davis, California for the mobile active transportation tour set up and put together by Hugh. He did a fantastic job of bringing about 20, I think there were 20 of us total. 20 of us, there's a photo that you can see of us all. So we went down to Davis. If you're not familiar with Davis, California, they call themselves the biking capital of America. They're a platinum biking city. And it was really interesting to go and have an opportunity to not only see the campus of UC Davis and how they handle bicycle and commuter or pedestrian, access, but also the city of Davis, California, and how they work really hand in hand with the campus and create this amazing mobile active transportation place. So we had the opportunity to ride around on some bikes, all of us, and see bicycle infrastructure, stuff that, an example here in this photo, they've got a lot of this stuff. They're sort of the pioneers in this type of infrastructure. Now, what's interesting on UC Davis's campus, it's very difficult to drive a vehicle unless you're delivering something or you're an emergency vehicle. They have gates that block vehicle traffic onto their campus. And so all the roads on the campus are they're full of bikers. Cyclists. They're the students. And it's like watching bees go into the hive. Does anybody get a footage of that roundabout? They have full road infrastructure like we do in our, in any of our cities, roundabouts built just for bicycles. And it's an amazing flow to see. So we had an opportunity to see the protected bike lanes. We had an opportunity to see bike boulevards, which they have several of on UC Davis. They're just directional bike traffic that's sort of the main arteries of moving folks. So during the school day, if you're in a vehicle and you're on the campus, you have some purpose to be in the campus for a vehicle. At the change of this classroom time, so top of the hour, you have to pull over and sit for 10 minutes and allow the students to move. If it's at noon, you have to pull over and wait for 20 minutes. So the car is not the king at UC Davis by any means. We only saw delivery vehicles and a few other vehicles on it, but they connect into the city of Davis with these same type of infrastructure. And the city of Davis has done, what do they call them? The protected intersections for bicyclists. When you come out to make your turn across the street, you move into a protected intersection, which I thought was something I would like to see, more of us do here. Gave the cyclists the ability to cross the street without feeling like they were going to get plowed by a vehicle at any given moment. So protected spot. They had bike racks was another thing that caught my attention. They have more bicycle parking than vehicle parking on the campus. I was interested in to see if the city of Davis actually had put their money where their mouth was with the bike racks like businesses. So we took a jaunt over to a shopping center, and sure enough, they had bike racks, everywhere for people to commute to the store on. And then we went to Trader Joe's, and we ran into a very nice lady, Cindy. You got a picture of her, Hugh? We got a few somewhere in there. There's Cindy. Cindy is 70 years old, and she has her bike fitted with some baskets on the back. They perfectly fit a reusable grocery bag. Cindy was there shopping at Trader Joe. Andrew engaged her in conversation, and she was very nice. She talked to us. She said she rides everywhere. She goes to the doctor, to the movies, to the store. Every place she goes all day long in Davis, she does it on a bike. She said she only uses her car when she goes out of town. And then she said, this is the best biking community in the country. And she was very proud of it. We asked her, she wasn't riding an e-bike. She was riding a regular bike. She did point out that they're flat. Davis and that whole area is flat. So it's a little different than what we've got in Utah, but I thought it was interesting. And this little parking lot where we were, it was just a constant flow of people coming in on bikes to shop in the store and go back where they were. So it was pretty interesting to see it. It made me think about my own city and, do we have a bike rack at our own city hall? I'm not going to answer that question for you because we will soon. I had my assistant go out. I texted her and said, do we have any bike racks at City Hall even? And I'm sad to say we didn't. We will by next month. But it was interesting to see how they've planned for bike use in their community with any new business, any new development that goes in. They're required to put in bike racks, bike infrastructure for people to be able to use their bicycle to get to whatever place they're going. Now, my impression were when we got there, you always think you're going to go see this city. There's so much, they're advanced and we're going to learn all that we can from them. And I didn't have that feeling at the beginning. I sort of thought we're doing a lot of this stuff already. And maybe we learned it from them years back, but I was excited to think about all the different projects that are in our communities. We have protected bike lanes in Draper. Like when we do a new road, that's what we do. There's a picture of that bike roundabout. Look at that. That's like the change of a class right there. There's one evil car that made it through. But that's just an amazing example of, and they all seem to work. They keep data at UC Davis on collisions, and they see more pedestrian bicycle collisions, obviously, than they do vehicle pedestrian collisions or bicycles collisions. So they have a whole research department there. They've got a lot of good data about usage. And what was interesting in the presentation we had, they talked about what will get people to use a bike as a way to commute. And it's obviously some of the obvious stuff that we all know and we're trying to implement, but you don't put people, normal people don't want to cycle on a 50-mile-an-hour road. They don't want cars going by them at more than 35 miles an hour. Some hardcore people are fine with it. Mayor Burton, he doesn't have a problem, but most people aren't going to want to be on that type of a road. So they've done a lot of background work on what kind of road you need, what kind of a lane you need, where it should be, how it should connect. And so I thought they're doing some really good things. I think we've adopted a lot of what they're doing there. We're obviously different. We have elevation, we have snow. Our community, I mean, to ride the UC Davis campus, you could do it on an old heavy bike, which we did. I don't know if you could ride the University of Utah campus on that bike. I'm 100% sure you couldn't because of the elevation. But it was still, you can see that if you build the right infrastructure in our communities, people will have a way and will feel comfortable, and we could probably get more people out on bikes and using them to commute. They talked about e-bikes, of course, and how they think that e-biking is going to be the next big jump in allowing people to use, people that maybe wouldn't use a bicycle will be able to do it. Anyway, it was an informative thing to go. I really enjoyed listening to their research team that's compiled the data on what they see, and they had some really good graphs and information about when a road is a certain speed, when a road's a certain width, all of that stuff, and just to see what people will do. They've done a good job of getting some information. So I'm certain we could draw upon, if you have questions, we could probably get that data and let people look at it. I think that data would apply to us because it's all about what will people do based upon what they have to use. Is the road, what kind of intersections? But I thought I think in Utah, we've adopted a lot of stuff. We had some UDOT folks with us, and they, obviously UDOT's been great at looking at this from this perspective. I was interested for the way the point would develop in the future. The point is flat. The point could incorporate this type of infrastructure easily because the whole point area would be a place where this would work. So, it was good to see it in really working full time with that. The campus has about 40,000 students on it. So it's like a little city in and of itself. So they're moving that many people around. So it was, to me, looking at it from the perspective of what will happen at the point in Draper was important for me. And I learned a lot about how we can do it and what it looks like. And it was pretty cool. Anybody else that was there that wants to comment? Mayor Burton, I know you have a comment.
Of course, I have a comment. It was great. Thank you for setting this up for us, Hugh. I had a good time, good experience, learned some great things. One of the takeaways I took from there is Davis has been working on this for a lot of years. And we need to realize this just doesn't happen overnight. This is something that is going to take us some time, but we need to start now. There's that old story that says, when's the best time to plant a tree? It was 20 years ago. When's the second best time to plant a tree? That's right now. And that's where this is. So when's the best time for us to start working on this? Well, it would have been 20 years ago. We've missed that window. Next best time is right now. So the things that they have shared with us, it gives us some great ideas as we begin to do that in our own communities. And this year is a fantastic year with the legislators putting forth money and some federal money that's also available for this. So I was excited to be there. I'm looking forward to next year.
Anyone else?
If I could, Mayor, and just say Bike Utah and Chris Wiltsey were instrumental in putting us together as well. So thanks to them, and also our hosts in Davis were incredible and really appreciative of their hospitality.
And you look at the unprecedented investment that our legislature made this year in active transportation. It was kind of cool to be able to tell them that our legislature and our governor have also committed to it in a way that's unprecedented. So it's exciting. I mean, we have some, I think with our with our transit. You and I talked about this, Andrew and I talked about this. In a lot of ways, to think we would connect cities with just biking that are maybe distant. Now, Sandy, Draper, you can have interconnections, but we are the benefit of our transit. We're going to have to incorporate transit as a way, if someone wants to come from, up north and go to the U, that they can be able to make sure they can get their bike on the vehicle, but have a way to connect maybe through transit and then use it locally in the area where they're going to be for the day. I think we ought to really look at that as the way we're doing. I think we are, but that it's certainly, we're so different in the sense of the elevation. If you can ride around there all day on that flat ground and you don't really feel it. If you ride from, down President's Circle at the U back up to your dorm, you're going to feel it. If you have to do that 3 times a day, you're going to feel it. So, and it's not bad, but like I said, Cindy she was in amazing shape. She said she enjoyed the exercise, but be interesting to live your whole week and never use a car and just use your bike to get around. That's what this lady does. And she said thousands of people do it because they can, because it's there for them. So anyway, all right, next item. We have some upcoming MATs, which are the Mobile Active Transportation Tour. So we have an upcoming one. Hugh, do you want to tell us what you've got coming?
Yeah, we're hoping to get some local mobile tours on the ground. Sandy's expressed interest in possibly hosting one. We'd love to work with Brittany and make that happen. Commissioner Fackrell, who's now joined us, welcome. With Morgan County, I know you've expressed some interest in having a tour up there, so we'd love to work on that. And then Bike Utah and WFRC and others, always try and hold one out in Daybreak as well. That has a lot of these nice elements for biking and walking in that community. So stay tuned for more information on those.
Yeah, definitely Daybreak is another place where it would really be awesome. So, okay, next item number 3 is our general public comment. Is there anyone here from the public that would like to comment? Dave, go ahead and go up there and give us your name and address and go ahead. Do we do that?
My name's Dave Iltis from Salt Lake City. Just wanted to reiterate the comment I made last time I was here that with Salt Lake City joining the Vision Zero network, that's a challenge for every other municipality that's represented in this room to join Vision Zero. I think WFRC got the big Safe Streets for All grant. It's similar principles to Vision Zero, but that step, it's not only symbolic, but it'll inform your future transportation decisions to join that, so that every single decision that you make is with the pedestrian and cyclist in mind, and so that you're looking at safety and it's not just the car first and then pedestrians and cyclists are on their own. It's data driven. It's states that the overall goal is that you'll have no more traffic deaths or serious injuries. So thank you.
Thank you, Dave. Now, that is also ties into what we saw in Davis, that they certainly have a culture in the community that has accepted the bicycle and the pedestrian as they've gotten to that level, which you're talking about, which I think is great because they clearly have that feel in downtown even. It was interesting.
Mr. Chair, can I add a comment on that also? That Dave's comment made me think of a lesson from Davis as well, which was we asked their advice. We had touring around time, and then we also had time talking with their planners and their engineers and their researchers, and we asked advice. And one of the key pieces of advice that I took away was they said we should not try, or community need not try and should not try to make every single road work for all types of users. That is just a recipe for everybody to be unhappy. If every road is going to be good for pedestrians and bicyclists and cars, you're not going to serve everybody, or really anybody well. And so trying to have a system that has roads that are primarily focused for cars function well, and then also have trails that are either completely separate trails, or if they are with the roadway, be protected and then function really well for bikes and for pedestrians, even if it means that makes it perhaps somewhat less functional for the automobile, making sure that you're accommodating them, but not necessarily all on the same road, I think was an important lesson as we as communities think about how we're not just building new facilities, but redesigning existing built out communities as we go forward.
Is there any other public comment? Anybody online? From the public? All right, seeing no further public comment, we'll go to item number 5. Information on the legislative, which one? 5 first? Okay. This is information on the legislative session. Miranda's gonna talk to us about what happened during the sausage making. Go ahead.
Good. I'm just going to jump in front of Miranda, just to note for process. We are going to go back to item 3, item 4. We're going to go back to item 4, but we're moving up item 5 just because several of us actually coincidentally need to head up to the Capitol for the Unified Economic Opportunity Commission meeting. So we wanted to get this covered first. So thank you, Mr. Chair.
Yeah, thanks. Like Andrew said, the work doesn't stop when session ends. It just is a continuous stream of meetings up at the Capitol. But I think a lot of folks have maybe seen some of the outcomes of the legislative session shared before in our different committees. And so I'll try not to belabor too many of the other points that I've shared before. But the last time we had our active transportation committee meeting, we did meet and share some of the things that were in the works during session. And so just wanted to report back on a few of those items and where we are post session. There we go. 575 passed bills. That's a new record. And then again, the largest state budget in the state's history as that continues to grow. But I kind of want to highlight, well, first of all, there's a lot of resources if you are looking for more information about the legislative session that we can share. We have a pretty extensive end of session summary of all the major bills and appropriations that passed that someone, and I can pop in the chat here. Thank you, Andrew. As well as our bill tracker and our appropriations tracker so that you can see what was funded that was notable in transportation and then what bills are worth knowing about. So I'll just note that those resources are out there. But I wanted to frame the discussion with these shared principles that we often come back to. So these are shared principles between Utah's transportation partners and MPOs and kind of set the stage for the investment in transportation that we are looking for. One, investing in infrastructure is important. Utilizing the professional planning processes, the work that we do here at WFRC we do with our partners at UDOT, UTA, and these other agencies really funnel to prioritize the transportation projects that are needed. And we hope that the legislature supports that and continues to invest in that process for those prioritized projects. Being fiscally prudent, not taking out unnecessary debt if it's not needed. But the point that I want to make most is supporting multimodal transportation choices, of course, as we're here in the Active Transportation Committee. The legislature, I would say historically has, funded roadways generally, and over the past several years has started to invest more and more in transit and in active transportation. Over the past few years, we've seen a significant amount of one-time funding going towards active transportation. I think to the tune of, Hugh, you may know this off the top of your head, was it 75 million? Josh knows.
45 million ongoing and 45 million one time for this year.
Right. So this year and over the past few years, so last year there was, there we go, Stephanie. Perfect. 75. There's a lot of one-time money going. And again, more investment this year that we'll talk a little bit more about. But I think it's notable that the legislature's tune and and the way that they're looking at these alternate forms of transportation has changed over the years. And I would just like to note that, those who went on the Davis tour, especially our mayors, I think it's great to share these experiences that you've had with our state elected officials and let them know, that these types of strong biking communities are out there, and to continue to help them understand the importance of strong active transportation communities. So to quickly highlight some transportation funding outcomes from the legislative session, Josh mentioned the 45 million one-time and 45 million ongoing for active transportation. We'll get into that a little bit more. 800, that should be an M. 800 million. 800 billion is a lot of money, and that is not 800 billion. $800 million for transportation debt repayment. This will be ultimately take down UDOT's existing debt that they have out for transportation projects. Funding for commuter rail projects at the Point of the Mountain, and double tracking of Front Runner. There was notably funding for Cottonwood Canyon's transportation. This is for bus service and other improvements. Nothing was specifically stated for the gondola. Just so
Wait, let me
we're
be
clear.
even
Yeah.
more specific about that. The
Andrew
funding
knows.
was explicitly and only for bus service, tolling, and mobility hub. It is the
Perfect.
phase 1 improvements that have been in the EIS, and only that.
Thank you, Andrew. There were a number of projects identified of, roughly 240 million of a total of all those projects. And then there was funding for rural areas for additional funding for B&C roads through a new rural transportation investment fund. So total, the legislature spent upwards of $1.6 billion for transportation funding this year. This builds on several years of significant one-time funding investment for transportation infrastructure. But I wanted to highlight the active transportation outcomes from legislative session. Like I mentioned, the money for the Utah Trails Network, with the creation of the Active Transportation Investment Fund, or the ATIF. Josh is going to talk about that here soon as I kind of wrap up, and the plans that UDOT has in the works for that exciting new program. SB 27, this one was notable as well. This reduces, in this bill, it reduces the TTIF match requirement from 40% to 30%. So this is the local match requirement. So these are for TTIF active projects, first last mile projects. And again, just reduces the, the burden that locals have to put that matching funding forward for these types of projects. So we think that's very notable, and we hope that over time that even continues to drop further. Andrew, do you have something to say about that one?
TTIF is the Transit Transportation
Sorry.
Investment Fund. Acronym check.
Thank you for the acronym check. There are many. And then lastly, there were a few outdoor recreation bills that I think are at least worth noting. These are mainly for recreation trails, but just created initiatives to manage, maintain, expand, and restore trails through different partnerships and stewardship agreements. And I don't know off the top of my head, but that may have received some minimal funding as well. So lastly, during our last meeting, I mentioned that there were a few, potentially problematic bills for active transportation. And I think it's worth noting that we didn't see any of those make it through the legislative session this year. And so we're not seeing any bad bills, I guess, that made it through. So to preface the ATIF discussion that Josh is going to share a few things about, I just wanted to note another successful effort on behalf of this group and many others with the over 500 plus signatures for the Utah Trail Network letter. asking legislators to prioritize and fund active transportation in the state. I would argue that this effort has been, one of the factors of many, pushing the legislature to fund active transportation. And we have seen, obviously the success from those efforts. And so just appreciate everyone's support in this effort as well. So, and Josh, if you want to go ahead and start sharing with
Miranda?
us a little. Yes.
There's a question in the chat you might want to hit before Josh jumps on.
Okay.
Councilmember Hire asked, what is an anti-bike bill?
Oh.
And Andrew, you answered, but
Yeah, my apologies for the, I guess, slang there, if you will. There was a particular bill that was just an unfriendly cyclist bill, requiring a cyclist to be on, wouldn't basically let them to use the roadway in a shared way that they can currently. And it just, again, an unfriendly cyclist bill, if you will. So we didn't see many of them. And like I mentioned, they weren't successful. Some of them died in committee, didn't make it to an actual vote of the whole body because many saw the problems with this bill. So.
And that's part of the legislative process. If a bill is offered, any member can offer a bill. And then if things work the way they are supposed to, there can be dialogue through the process. Issues can be raised. And then sometimes a member will just withdraw their bill or it'll fail in committee. And I think that's what happened on the bill that you were referring to.
Thank you. Well, as you mentioned, SB 185 did pass this year. And of course, that's the funding for what the governor's Legacy Trail project is that he announced last fall in conjunction with Carlos. You also mentioned there was 200 million for Point of the Mountain funding. And I'm really proud that UDOT is creating a new division, essentially, right? So we have our maintenance division, we have our construction division, we have our planning division. Well, after the passage of SB 185, Carlos, Terry, and Lisa asked if I would like to be the head of that new division, which is incredibly exciting. I was really excited about the governor's announcement last fall and was hoping I could be part of it. So this is a great opportunity moving forward. Quick overview on things that are part of the state trail network. I think it's important to note that if you look at our graphic, this is not intended to be a trail from Logan to St. George or from Wendover to Evanston, but it's really an opportunity to connect places and people to their destinations, right? So our graphic shows kind of various alignments. And really, we want to give people the opportunity to use active transportation to get to their parks, get to their job, get to the trailhead that they might be going to, get to churches, get to the grocery store, all those things that Cindy does. Oh, thank you. That is the graphic. Thank you. And so there was a lot of thought put into this graphic. Again, you can see that it's kind of various trails connected through the state, not necessarily contiguous, but really focusing on all the different types of users that we could see. I really appreciate you bringing out the outdoor recreation bill as well, because I think there's a big differentiation in what they're trying to do versus what our goals are. And so we're really looking at a paved regional networks, if you will. And I think, again, that's what's really shown here in this graphic of connecting those people to those civic centers. So they have opportunities. And this isn't just for the people who want to ride bikes, but we have to remember there's a large percentage of our population that may be too old to drive, maybe too young to drive. It's not just people who choose not to drive, right? There are people with medical reasons they can't drive. And so we really need to consider all users as part of this effort. Interestingly, this does not have a local match similar to the TTIF or those previously regional important projects that I believe were 80-20. Staff, jump in here at any point if I say something incorrect. So close.
One-time money was 80-20, wasn't it? The one-time monies?
We're both right. So again, this does not have a local match, so this is incredibly important. But it also considers maintenance, and those previous monies didn't have a maintenance component. And so we're trying to figure out exactly what maintenance means in this sense, whether it's crack sealing, overlays, fog coats, snow plowing, shouldering. These are all questions we have right now. I think, there's a benefit to keeping a good shoulder, and I did not have the opportunity to go to Davis, but I am a frequent trail user of Park City and Summit County's trail network. And I appreciate that there's some untreated off to the side, so I can actually run not on asphalt. And I think these are things that we have to think about as we continue to develop what the goals of this program are and how we're going to implement it. I have a lot of questions, as I'm sure many of you do. This is currently my 5th week on the job. So we have not figured everything out yet. We do recognize that we have to create a project prioritization process and figure out how these projects are going to rank, in what order they're going to be built. Because again, it's important to build the right project in the right place at the right time. And this $45 million of ongoing funding combined with 45 one-time gives us a great opportunity to make huge benefits around the state. The other thing I want to focus on is this is not intended to supplement existing projects, right? If there's a roadway project, they need to be responsible for the trail amenities in that area. This is really designed for standalone projects to make the most benefit for AT travel. So again, that's just something I want to emphasize there. The other thing we're going to do this summer is reach out to different counties, different cities, different MPOs, and figure out what the list of input projects are that meet the program's goals, so we can start prioritizing them and start making them a reality. Start working towards design, right-of-way acquisition if necessary, and start making a difference. So again, we're really young in this program, but I'm so excited that we have ongoing funding for both projects and staff, and we are up and running, but we have lots to do.
Thank you. Any questions?
Yes, I have some questions. Everything you're talking about here is for, I hate to be this way for everybody else in here, Wasatch Front communities connecting. What about the small towns on the other side? I mean, is this going to be a statewide effort connecting? I mean, at first we thought it was connecting communities, like Morgan to Ogden or Davis County or wherever. But according to what you're saying, this is going to be just citywide or maybe within the counties and not really, is it? I mean, that's what it's sounding to me. I would like to see it for the rural areas of Utah also, where we're connecting everybody.
I apologize if that's what I said. That is not what I meant. And I think it's important to go back to this graphic to show that we really are looking statewide and not just Wasatch Front. If you look at some of the facilities, specifically around Richfield,
okay,
those are fantastic facilities and they have tremendous usage. and are really valuable for the citizens in those small communities. So this is not intended to be just in the Wasatch Front. But we do need to look at the appropriate project and the appropriate project size. But this will be a statewide effort. So I'm sorry if I miscommunicated
That's
that.
fine, as long as it includes us all and not just the front Wasatch Front, sorry. Had that conversation.
Anyone else have any comments or questions?
Hey, Josh, it looks like there's a few questions in the chat. One is Mayor Burton has asked how he can help. Will it have a committee or some type of volunteer positions? He's curious about that. And then we also have a question about what's the name of the new division created for trails and transit.
So the second part is easy. The new division is called Trails and Transit. It's pretty descriptive and engineering bland, but it's really effective in its naming. So it is Trails and Transit, as Hugh reminded me this morning. It should be called Trails and Transit, not Transit and Trails. And then for Mayor Burton, we are planning some significant outreach efforts to meet with the different groups and interested people. So yeah, I look forward to meeting with you soon, and I can certainly share my contact information and we can expedite that if you have interest. But there's a lot to figure out. I don't know what the exact methodology will be. All of those are being considered, but again, I have a lot of questions, but I don't have all of the answers yet.
Josh, following on that, there's another comment in the chat, which gets at something I wanted to note, which is about the relationship between developing the Utah Trails Network and the existing processes that we've used for planning for transportation, including for trails. So, we through UDOT and through the metropolitan planning organizations, working with the cities and counties, of course, do a lot of work in identifying priority projects going forward. And I'm going to state this as an assumption because I know it to be true, because we've talked about this over the course of the whole effort to create this program, but we will utilize to some extent the projects that emerge from the existing planning processes, the regional transportation plans, Utah's unified transportation plan for the whole state. But I would say that we're not limited by that. When this is sort of a question and sort of a comment, I suppose. One of the things that is arguably transformative about this funding is it's for the first time we have stable, sizable, ongoing statewide funding for trails, for paved trails, which will enable us to perhaps think beyond what we have been able to conceive of before. So we can utilize past planning and your efforts and current plans, but we have the opportunity to dream even bigger as we look ahead. Do you want to comment on that?
I think you said it perfectly, right? Especially as we're getting off the ground, we are going to rely heavily on these developed plans. Obviously, the developed plans are somewhat community-based and a mix of regionally important. And again, I don't love this term, but I think it's descriptive in that as we're looking to develop transportation alternatives, we are going to lean on that very heavily, especially up front, but we are going to dream big and look at these opportunities for bigger projects that may have just seemed out of reach before there was available funding. So it'll be a combination of both those. So well said.
One more question, if I may. So you were mentioning in what you told us here that you wanted to have these trails to be separate than the state roads or the roads. Are we going to, if that is the case, then we've got a lot of work to do. If we just widen the roads a little bit more, we may not have to do as much. So infrastructure on the roads is going to be a huge thing.
And I don't disagree with that. And again, I think I I may have said something that I didn't necessarily mean. What I was referring to was funding purposes, right? So if there is an existing reconstruction project along a state route, the project should cover the funding in that. This funding is really intended for standalone projects that may be along a state route. It may be a completely new alignment. It might be along a city or county road as well. So we can, back to what you were saying, Andrew, make sure that the facilities match the community, right? So I was more speaking to funding purposes, that these will be standalone projects that would have a difficult time getting funding outside of our normal TIF highway funds. Great clarification. Thank you.
Thank you. All right. Let's get back. What's that? Oh, Dave, come to a mic if you would. Grab one, or Miranda, will you give him one? Tell us your name again, Dave, and so we know where.
My name's Dave Eltis. Just wondering, where does one go if you have an idea for a trail that's, say, not in any existing plans, or one that's been in a plan for 20 plus years that there's been no action on? Where does one go as an advocate or citizen to introduce that?
So that is a great question. And sadly, that is also something I don't have an answer for today. Like I said, this is week 5, and right now I have about 1,000 post-it notes of things that we need to figure out that we haven't figured out yet. But we do recognize that there needs to be a place for that citizen input and advocacy groups to reach out and show support for individual projects. But as of right now, I wish I had an answer for you, but it's on the list of things to resolve.
Can I make a comment on that? There's a lot of details to work out, as you've heard from Josh, but I think one thing for everybody to note is that the work of the Trails in Transit group is going to dovetail with the work of developing Utah's Unified Transportation Plan. And so it may be simplistic, but at least for now, one of the key ways to get your idea considered by the Trails in Transit group is by utilizing your friendly neighborhood metropolitan planning organization and the regional transportation plan process. So I would lean into that as well, even as these other opportunities, I think, emerge and become mature.
Ted, I'm glad you said that. Amen to that. And I would just say, Mr. Chair and Hugh, I think it's safe to assume that this topic of the Utah Trail Network will be one that this committee, the Active Transportation Committee, will be focusing attention on regularly as we go forward.
Yes. All right. If there's nothing else on 5, let's go up to item number 4. Hugh's going to give a brief update on the number of people who've died while biking and walking on our roads this year. Let's go ahead. He's going to do our vulnerability assessment. Go ahead, Hugh.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And those of us that have been attending these meetings regularly know we've been talking about this frequently, and based on the really unfortunate year last year. So it's just something to see how things are going this year when it comes to vulnerable user fatalities. See that now, Jory? Ted, perfect. Okay, so these are just the numbers as we see them. Bicycle fatalities on the top, pedestrian on the bottom. There was one person who died while bicycling in March. Fortunately, the only one year to date, if you can look at it that way, compared again to, we're looking at the 2022 numbers and 15. So trying to keep this down, obviously. Pedestrian fatalities, year to date 39. I think that shows a green because it's less than the 54 from last year and less than the average. You see on the 5-year average and the bicycle fatalities on the top, it's red because it's going to be at the current or have the current pace. of the 5-year average. So again, I always hate putting numbers to these because these are people, these are families that are affected. And so everything we've talked about and the comment about Vision Zero earlier, right, there are, again, efforts that are going on right now as we speak. UDOT is doing their vulnerable road user safety assessment that's in process and going on right now. The Safe Streets and Roads for All that both MAG and WFRC and other areas in the state received money for. We're trying to get under contract to kick those processes off. So again, an increased and renewed focus on pedestrian and people biking safety, anybody outside of a car. So again, we'll try and get some updates from these folks that are doing this work in an upcoming meeting, but know that it's ongoing and we don't want to stop paying attention to this. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Hugh. That takes us to item number 6. And this is a Transportation and Land Use Connection Awards. So I'm going to turn the time over to Megan. You've got some
Thank you,
awards.
Mayor.
Go ahead, Megan.
Okay, so in March, we were able to make the 2023 Transportation and Land Use Connection Awards. The TLC program, as we call it, is Planning Technical Assistance. One of the goals of that program is to increase travel options to optimize mobility. So as you can imagine, a lot of the work we do year to year within the TLC program is related to active transportation. This year, we made 13 awards. 2 of those are regional, or in addition to 2 regional kind of WFRC-led efforts, a little different, 13 community awards. We made over $2 million in awards. And so this is our biggest year yet by far. The partners in this program are UDOT, UTA, Salt Lake County, and the Wasatch Front Regional Council. So in doing this highlight, I wanted to just focus on the active transportation related projects, keep it nice and short, but that is actually 9 out of 13 community projects. So I'm going to highlight almost all of the projects anyway, and that's just the nature of the program. We fund a lot of active transportation work. I'll go ahead and just run through these. The first one is a Cottonwood Heights Town Center Master Plan and Canal Study. So this will actually be run as 2 projects, focusing on that canal trail study. That's an opportunity to look at some utility corridors through the community through an active transportation lens, as well as walkability and connections to this town center through the Town Center Master Plan that Cottonwood Heights will be doing. That asterisk up at the top is on a few of these projects. It indicates some Intermountain Healthcare funding. Intermountain Healthcare a couple of years ago said, hey, we love the work you're doing through TLC. We want to give you some more money to do more of it. And we programmed some of those dollars this year towards some of these projects where we had shared goals. And the Canal Trail Study is certainly one of those, along with the Town Center Master Plan. Or the next one. For Perry, we funded the Perry Highway 89 Master Plan. This has been looked at before, but there's a continued effort, collaboration between UDOT and Perry City, along with other communities in Box Elder County to find a better fit along Highway 89. So this will be run as kind of a solutions development project, working closely with UDOT. It'll address safety, bicycle and pedestrian facilities, land use sensitive design and implementation strategies along Highway 89. In Morgan City, we funded another kind of a hybrid plan. One is the downtown plan and design standards. The other is a parks and trails plan that's Morgan City wide. This would pair very nicely with a mobile active transportation tour through Morgan County. We're excited about this project. We'll actually be contributing some in-house staff time as well on this one. We're excited to spend some more time in Morgan. Our Mayor Chair's project, the Draper City Range to River Corridor Study, taking a look at, we know that the point of the mountain is being developed very multimodally. This will look at from a active transportation corridor from the point to the Porter Rockwell Trail, looking at things like alignments and community engagement, those kinds of things, high level, not getting down into the weeds of design here, but we have a nice line on a map there that we're going to try and make some sense of. In Midvale, we funded a master transportation plan. This has a heavy focus on a multimodal network. Midvale has a great Main Street. We've been doing a lot of work with them there and along State Street, but looking citywide at all modes of transportation in Midvale. In Mill Creek, we funded a master trail and sidewalk implementation plan. This is exciting. We are going to get down into the weeds of, sidewalk policies and city processes for when to look at implementing sidewalks, among other things. This is an implementation of the Mid-Valley Active Transportation Plan, where we had several communities work together on kind of looking sub-regionally at active transportation. Within those communities, there's still a need to dive deeper. As we knew, we're looking at cross-community connections, and now for Mill Creek, diving a little deeper into AT planning. A couple more here in South Jordan. We funded the Shields Lane Solutions Development Study. This will be an assessment of land use as well as trail connections, connecting to destinations, traffic data, and transit connections along the corridor, looking at context-sensitive multimodal solutions, working closely with transportation partners on this. In West Jordan, we funded the Safe Street Study and Implementation Plan, the study to propose context-specific long-term solutions to increase street safety and promote traffic calming in West Jordan. With this project and with others, we're also looking at implementation, right? Not just doing a study that leaves the city with some great data and information. This will go beyond that and look at the implementation of that. Okay, and last, in Davis County, we funded a countywide active transportation plan. I'm not going to talk about this one. Bartley Matthews with Davis County is going to talk about this one. Before I pass it off, I'll just point out that you can always go see all of the transportation and land use connection projects on our online map. If you go to wfrc.org/TLC, there's a button that looks just like that one off to the right-hand side. And you can even, it's filtered by project type. And one of those is active transportation focus. So you can always go see everything we funded year over year. And if they're completed, you can see the product of those funded projects as well. Okay, Bartley, take it away.
Thank you, Megan. I'm Bartley Matthews, Transportation Planner with Davis County. And we've had a pretty serious meeting here this morning. And I thought I'd just mention to you that as I walked over here from the bus stop at Crownburger, I noticed all these bicycles just laying on the ground. And it was so crazy. I could not figure out, why are these bicycles laying on the ground and why aren't they standing up? And I realized it's because they're too tired. Anyway, that comes to you from our Davis County planning staff. We're happy to share and lighten the mood here today. We are really grateful to Wasatch Front Regional Council for this TLC grant to help us with our active transportation plan in Davis County. And does this work for me? Okay. All right. Davis County, we've got a lot of fun trails, a lot of fun things that are happening there. And in some of these images, you may not feel like you're in Davis County if you're just familiar with what you see from I-15, but just a short distance off of Highway 89 or out to Antelope Island, you can find yourself in some alpine regions, doing some mountain biking. You can be on the Bonneville Shoreline Trail hiking. There's just some beautiful variety to the trails that we have in Davis County. Now I bring this slide up because this shows all of the cities in Davis County. I think it's pulling all of them into this slide, and we've got 15 cities. All 29 counties in Utah have unique characteristics to them. And here are some of the unique characteristics to Davis County, which I don't think are shared really with any other county in the state. One is that geographically, we're the smallest county in the state, and yet we have the third largest population at approximately 375,000. In that population, only 3,500 roughly live in the unincorporated county. That's 0.1% live in the unincorporated county. And so we are really quite close to being one of those counties that is wall-to-wall cities with our 15 cities. Now, I've put their images up here of their logos because I want to recognize them. all of these cities in some form or fashion have done active transportation planning. Several of them through the TLC program have received grants where they could develop their own active transportation plans. And others have incorporated that type of planning through their trails plan in their parks and recreation and so forth, and in their general plans in their cities. But we have some very nice plans in Davis County that all of these cities have put together. What we are looking at doing as Davis County is taking those plans and stitching them together to find out where the gaps are and to really create a regional network throughout the county that not only ties the county together, but also looks up to Morgan County and to the south to Salt Lake County and to the north to Weber County, and seeing how we also connect with them to really do our part in linking the Wasatch Front together. This slide shows you all of the trails that we currently have record of it at the county office. And so if we're missing some trails in your city and you're listening right now, reach out to us and we'll work to get those updated. This slide shades those trails. The brown are all of the dirt and gravel trails, primarily the hiking trails that are in the forest, National Forest on the east mountain range and out of Antelope Island. All the dark are our paved trails. So we have a fair number of paved trails throughout the county. You can see that there's also a fair number of gaps if you were looking to try and get from one end of the county to the other. But we do have a few unique things there where we've got some regional connectivity. This slide just shows you a table here of all of our trails and the number of miles that we have. So all together, there's like 472 miles in the county. But we have 136 miles of the paved shared use trails in Davis County. And that's what we'll focus on here for a moment. Well, maybe. The next slide I've highlighted here is the Bonneville Shoreline Trail. So it's not paved, but it's extremely popular. Now, this particular line that you're seeing there shows all of the existing trail plus the planned trail. So we've got a few gaps in the Bonneville Shoreline Trail that we're working on right now to get connected. But the county has done a wonderful job using one of the state's grants through the Office of Outdoor Recreation to extend this south set portion of the trail up there above Bountiful and North Salt Lake into Salt Lake County. And so far, it just wrapped up last fall. And so far, the feedback we're getting is everyone really loves it. So we encourage you to get up there and see it. This is just an image of the Bonneville Shoreline Trail, what you might expect to see in a portion of it. You'll find all kinds of users on the Bonneville Shoreline Trail. It is very busy. And that's not just true in Davis County. I think that's true in all the other counties along the Wasatch Front where we have the Bonneville Shoreline Trail. This is another segment, another portion of it over at Fernwood. Fernwood is just off of Highway 89 east of Layton. And you can get into portions of the Bonneville Shoreline Trail that look like this. Here's another portion of the Bonneville Shoreline Trail at Adams Canyon, just east of Layton and by Kaysville there. Again, you may not think that this is just, a short distance off of Highway 89, but it is. So the next trail that I'm highlighting here is two trails. We have that north, nice straight line up there coming from the north. That's our Denver and Rio Grande Rail Trail. And then to the south, you see where it goes down into North Salt Lake to Salt Lake County. That's the Legacy Parkway Trail. Those two trails will get you all the way through Davis County on a paved trail. They've been extremely popular. This is an image of Legacy Parkway Trail. Extremely popular. They get a lot of use on them. We have a variety of uses. We've got some spots where you can see where it gets a little more shaded and so forth. Those are very popular. In Clearfield, Clinton, Kaysville, they have some nice shaded sections of the Denver and Rio Grande Trail. Extremely popular. Lots of families are on these trails, lots of kids. Very popular trail. The next trails that I'm highlighting here up at the north through Syracuse and West Point, that's our old immigration trail or the immigrant trail. And it's going to tie into the next segment to the south that goes down to Farmington that should be completed soon with the West Davis corridor. And that's the trail system being built adjacent parallel to the new highway. And this is an image of what you might expect to see if you were up in Syracuse or West Point on that trail. This image that I'm showing you here is streetlight data. And what is fascinating about this is it gives us an indication of how many people are actually using some of these trails. So you can see primarily there that Denver and Rio Grande Trail tying into the Legacy Parkway Trail and the Jordan River Trail all the way into Salt Lake City there. And up in the northern parts of that and kind of the center sections as well through Kaysville, Clearfield, all of it. Between April and September of 2021, the average daily count of bicycles, just bicycles on the trail, was approximately 500 a day. So these trails are getting some pretty heavy use. And it's kind of interesting too. We'll parse more of that out as we get into streetlight data through this study for our plan here. And we'll be able to identify a little bit more of where these people are coming from, where they're going. But my sense is a lot of it's kind of just within their neighborhood and fairly close by. So when I bring all these trails up for you right here, you can see the paved trails, and again, the ones that I've just highlighted, which are regional trails, and you see where we've got some connectivity gaps. And so we've got opportunities here to do some great things to create a regional network in Davis County. For example, you can see up there the trail out there on the causeway headed out to Antelope Island. We could come right up through Syracuse on Antelope and up through Layton all the way and connect that and have an east-west connection. There's another one up farther north in Clinton on the canal trail up there that can tie in with 1800 North and the reconstruction of that and so forth. There's just a variety of opportunities that we plan to identify through this planning process that will start this summer. This image is just one I found online really quickly. It's the University of Washington up there. But what I'm really trying to focus on, our goal at Davis County is to do a little bit of what Andrew was pointing out earlier today in the comments of Davis. And that is to have a grade separated trail system. Every road doesn't need to have a bike path on it and doesn't necessarily need to have bikes and pedestrians on it. And what we want to do is create a safe environment that gives that regional connectivity. So I put this image up here just to show, you know, our goal is a grade separated regional trail network. Compare it to like the interstate highway system if you want. But we want to have something like that going through Davis County that keeps people in a safe space where they can have that mobility that they desire. So it may require some facilities such as these in the future, you know, box culverts and so forth. And we're seeing some already. UDOT's put a nice one in on the West Davis corridor in Syracuse. The other one, Mayor Walker just stepped out and I was going to brag about his bridge. But we love this suspension bridge that's in Bear Canyon and Draper. There's segments on the Bonneville Shoreline Trail where we might need a bridge just like this one in Mayor Walker's city of Draper. Farmington Canyon, for example, could be a great application of something like this and help us get that connectivity to the Bonneville Shoreline Trail. So we want to make it so that people of all ages can enjoy our trails, have a wonderful experience, get out and enjoy nature, and just love being a part of moving around in Davis County and having that quality of life that they seek. So we are grateful again for this grant. I'm going to put in a final plug here. I've got a birthday invitation to all of you. It is the 20th anniversary of the Denver and Rio Grande Trail. So if you ride through Clinton, you'll see that in 2003, that's when we started the trail getting paved up there. And so on May 13th, Saturday, May 13th at Farmington Regional Park, from 12 to 3 p.m., we're going to have an end of ride event as part of the Golden Spoke ride. The Golden Spoke celebrates 100 miles of continuous trail, paved trail from Ogden to Provo. It's a family-friendly bike ride. We want you to push this out through your community newsletters. Get as many people as you can to come and participate. Go register at goldenspokutah.org. We're also going to have a short family-friendly ride on the Farmington Creek Trail, so long as it's not flooded at the time with all the high water that's coming up. But go register for these events. We've got some fun activities planned at the regional park afterwards to celebrate 20 years of the Denver and Rio Grande Trail. Are there any questions? Looks like I covered everything. So once again, thanks to WFRC. We're excited to dive into this effort this summer.
Thank you. That's excellent. And obviously, your trail is one of the great pieces of infrastructure that's been put in coming from Ogden South. So it's fantastic. So good work. And I can give you some ideas on the bridge if you want. So just let me know. We can tell you who built it. So, all right, that takes us to item number 7, which is an invitation to the Golden Spoke Bike Ride and Bike Month. Hugh, have you got that?
Yeah, so great timing and transition from Bartley's plug for the Golden Spoke. I'll just go into this a little bit more. Again, we've been doing this as transportation partners and for a number of years now. I think it's the 5th iteration of celebrating the Golden Spoke network. Special thanks to Davis County for hosting the end event and all the work they put in this year. And as you can see on the map on the left, there will be a ride starting in Ogden, about 9:30 a.m., 25-mile ride to get down to Farmington Park to the south, again, where festivities start at noon. And our ride in Provo that starts earlier, 7:30, to get you up, hopefully by the time those festivities end in Farmington for a 75-mile ride. And then there's also a smaller 2.5-mile ride, Bartley, is that right? That will just be, really child and family oriented if the 25-miler or 75-miler aren't your speed. And that starts at the Farmington Pond Park and will come down to that Farmington Regional Park as part of those events. I will say, if you don't want to do a 25 or 75-miler, jump on Front Runner anywhere, meet us along the trail, bring friends and family. Important thing is to get to Farmington Regional Park between those 12 and 3 timelines. So this is an event as part of Bike Month and National Bike Month across the country, as envisioned by the League of American Bicyclists. They have all sorts of marketing material if you want to promote this in your city or have any small event, anything you want to do is a good thing to plug this, again, to create that culture that we talked about, that we saw so much in Davis recently, and lots of different things. And we can put some of these materials and links and resources in a follow-up email to this meeting. But May is Bike Month. If you have something planned, let us know about it and we'll help you promote it in your city. And if you don't have something planned, just try something small, anything at all to get going. If you haven't had the opportunity, Provo has been doing a bike to work day with breakfast stations all over town for a number of years, and it's pretty amazing. They have 10, 12 different breakfast stations, tons of people out. If you haven't experienced it as a Provo resident, and I know Mag is represented on this board, I'm going to invite you to that. This year, it's Thursday, May 4th from 7:30 to 9 a.m. Come down on the Front Runner. Let me know you're coming. I'll meet you there and we can just go tour around. I keep my kids out of school on purpose. They go to school late so we can go visit the breakfast stations. It's just a great time and they do a great job down there. So that is the plug for Golden Spoke and Bike Month. Thank you.
All right, that takes us to item number 8, which would be other business. First item is a raise grant submitted. Hugh, you want to get over that?
Me again, thanks. So mentioned earlier about the importance of connecting trails and biking and walking to transit opportunities, right? Trent's the great walk extender. Just a reminder that transportation partners, with being a UDOT-led project, have submitted a raise grant, which is a federal grant opportunity. Made a request of $25 million. for about $32 million worth of projects that will make it easier for people in traditionally underserved areas to access transit. So we'll hear back on that grant in June, I think by late June, and we'll keep you posted on that, but excited about that opportunity. And then the next thing I'm going to actually toss to Steph Tomlin, if I can, to talk about some UDOT nomination opportunities.
All right, I'm gonna share my screen if I can. All right, so this is, I just wanted to, thank you for putting this on the agenda, Hugh, to kind of talk through the nominations that'll be opening for the TIF and the TTIF. So that will happen, we anticipate coming out for nominations, going out, I should say, for nominations in May. So as a quick reminder, the TIF and the TTIF. So this is, Josh mentioned, and we talked a lot about the ATIF. This is not that, but this is a funding source that we've had at UDOT over the last several years that has helped fund some of the active transportation projects across the state. So to be clear, and like, it's great that I had this on the tail end of Megan talking about the TLC, because this is so where that funds kind of planning and studies like that. This funding actually funds the project construction. So it's bigger funding amounts that we put forth to fund the actual construction of a project, a trail, bike lane, sidewalks, etc. A lot of the communities in this room and in this virtual room have used this funding in the past. So it's definitely one that's been out there, but it does require a 60-40 match. So as in the UDOT portion is 60%, requires a 40% match. Miranda mentioned the lowering of the match. That's only for the TTIF, so the first last mile and the transit. So for active transportation, the TIF active, that still remains a 60-40. But this is a new website that we've developed to help bring everything as it relates to the TIF and the TTIF all into one place. So it's projectprioritization.udot.utah.gov. And the most important thing is for right now is this nominations tab. So when we go out for nominations, this is where you will go to submit a nomination for a project. And how we have done this in the past is we've relied really heavily on our MPO and AOG partners to help disseminate the information when we go out for nomination. So hopefully you'll hear from WFRC and MAG and the other MPOs when we actually go out. But as you can see right now, we're currently anticipating May that we'll open this nomination window, and it'll be open for several weeks, if not longer. But we just wanted to kind of give everyone the heads up that we anticipate coming out in May. So you can start thinking about some of your projects that you might want to nominate. Just to give you a flavor, we've funded everything from a 21-mile multi-use trail down on SR9. So from Laverkin, Hurricane area up to Springdale, massive, multi-use trail project down there, to, a gap connection on 900 West to connect the Parley's Trail to the Jordan River Parkway Trail, and kind of everything in between. So it's a great source of funding to get some of those bigger, high ticket items funded. The match, I understand, it can be tricky, but we pretty much, you can use almost anything as a match except for other UDOT administered state funding. So you can't use TAP or Safe Sidewalks as an example to match, but you can use things like the Office of Outdoor Recreation. They have funding available for active transportation type projects. You can certainly use that. You can also do right-of-way contributions, in kind, and federal and county. You can really, try and make it really open to that to the match that you can use. So yeah, with that, if there's any questions, I'd be happy to answer them, but just wanted to make everyone aware to start thinking about projects that you'd be interested in nominating to get funded for construction. Absolutely.
Thank you, Stephanie. Appreciate you jumping in there at my request last minute. You were way more detailed than me.
I have a question for her. Why the 60-40?
That's a great question that
Why
I don't
not
know.
an 80-20?
Sorry?
Some of us counties can't do it 40%.
Yeah.
So what do?
Yeah.
It means we never get a project.
So that is not decided by UDOT. That's decided by the legislature, that match amount. And so like, as Miranda mentioned, the legislature did decide to reduce the match for the TTIF. So for the first last mile projects, which is a connection, if you're building a project that will make a connection to transit via active transportation. So things like pedestrian overpasses at front runner stations, for example, or things like that. That one now has a lower match amount. So now it's 30%. But yeah, I completely agree. And unfortunately, that's not a decision that UDOT made.
Which legislators do I need to talk to?
I would recommend the ones of your your communities. Yeah. I mean, it's decisions that get made, in the transportation subcommittees and things like that. Yeah, I know it's hard, but again, we tried to make sure by opening it up to pretty much any type of match except for other UDOT administered funding. So hopefully there's opportunities to kind of pull together, multiple matches.
Hugh, this
Stephanie.
is
Oh,
Hugh,
go
this
ahead.
is Tori. Maybe it's something that we could put on, talk to Andrew and Miranda about and see if there's a coordinated effort. Commissioner, we have heard that comment a lot about the 40% match is a little bit prohibitive for quite a few people. And so it might be something we want to collectively, try to tackle, and we might have better success as well.
Yeah, I think that's great. And I just put the link to this website in the chat. Again, it's pretty easy, project prioritization, but it's there. There's a lot of information. I definitely would recommend you check out the FAQ section because that helps, if you're wondering if your project is eligible. We've outlined pretty much everything about eligibility, about those match requirements, about what makes a good project. We have also tried to articulate the difference between ATIF and like TIF active, just to make sure you kind of understand which funding pool you're trying to submit for. So that can be found on the FAQ section. I think
Cool.
that's it.
Thank you so much. One thing I failed to mention, we have people in the room ride the Golden Spoke network. You can color in sections of the Golden Spoke that you've ridden or extensions of it. It's kind of a fun thing to do in the room, and we'll get these posted as well online. Back to you, Mr. Chair.
All right, our next meeting is set for June 14th, 2023. Unless there's anything else, is there a motion to adjourn? All right, thank you, Bartley. No, Jeff, sorry, get the tag there. All right, motion by Jeff to adjourn. Is there a second?
Second,
All right, all in favor, say aye. All
you.
right, thank you. We are adjourned.
Thank you, everybody. Really appreciate it. And for those still listening, Pedestrian Safety Day, April 24th, part of the Zero Fatality Summit, and the Move Utah Summit is May 24th, also part of Bike Month.
And Hugh, if you'd fill out that Golden Spoke thing for me, I've ridden only from Provo to Ogden on it. Yeah, fill that out.
There's some spurs, Mayor, but yeah, I can do that. Good to you next time I see you.